had Sam Bird as the analyst, and I didn't know that voice because I never really heard Sam Bird talk all that much, which isn't that shocking. But the fact is, he was actually really good. But then I'm just trying not to listen to Jack Nicholls because so it's Graham Rahal, Elio Castroneves, Devlin DeFrancesco. Devlin DeFrancesco's freaking tried to make it 3 wide, hit the apron, cleared into Graham Rahal, and took out Elio too. Yeah, that's great.
They all went high as well and hit the barrier at the top.
Yep. I mean, that's just a terrible move by DeFrancesco, but then he's not any good anyway, so that's just stupid. Yeah, he's a rookie, but then he's also daddy's money, so he's akin to like Santino Ferrucci or, a certain person that shall remain nameless that used to be in Formula One. He's kind of at that level.
Voldemort, yeah.
IndyCar's equivalent to him.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there are a couple
equivalent to that.
There are a couple other people that could fit that, like Tatiana Calderon, but whatever. What's the guy who drives Dalton Kellett? Both of them are pretty horrible. But Devlin DeFrancesco is not good.
Yeah, so I've just gone live now, guys. So just gonna get the tags on the video, and we'll get going with the show very shortly. Trying to get this done as quickly as possible. Phil, you're coming in a little loud, by the way, just so you know. So I'm not sure where your mic is or whatever. Just move it a little bit away from where you are.
Okay, just give me a second here. Yeah, I've had to adjust my settings because of going on a Discord with our stream. So let me move this microphone, test mic. All right. I know.
Okay, that's all set there.
Is that better?
That is perfect, mate. Yeah, you were coming in
a little hot.
It was really hot. Yeah, I was running it in deep, hoping that nobody else would make a turn in on me.
Yeah, you were like Max Verstappen with some of them moves there. Just going for it and hoping for the best. Right. So I think that's all set up. So I'm just going to get the results. Put them over there. Get the script. Put it over there. You guys ready to go?
Ready to go. Just tweeting out. So it's the we're going live on my side.
Thank you, mate. All right. Roses are red, violets are blue. Red Bull look quick, Ferrari 1-2. Hello and welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 178, where we're going to be reviewing the season opening race from 2022, the Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and joining me today is host of the 5 Red Lights podcast, Aaron Harper.
Hello.
Tom Downey from EF1.
Hello.
And Phil Mathew from the Grip Strip podcast.
Hello.
So, lads, hell of a race to start the season. The new regulations have definitely shaken things up, and Ferrari have continued their upwards trajectory by claiming a 1-2 finish to date. Charles Leclerc finishing ahead of Carlos Sainz, and an absolute maximum points haul for Ferrari too. Aaron, it's a perfect start to the season for them. Charles Leclerc with a brilliant performance today, and Carlos Sainz again backing him up well in second there.
Oh, it was a beautiful performance from Charles, and it's everything that we know that he's capable of. The thing that worries me about Charles is if he makes a silly mistake, a bit like Azerbaijan or Monaco, the 2 qualifying sessions where he kind of binned it. But yesterday he delivered the lap, considering he wasn't fastest after the first runs. That honour went to his teammate Carlos Sainz, and then after winning the start, he dealt with Verstappen very well. I think the way that those two have come through, the sort of the generation that they are, they're both very adept at fighting each other because they know exactly how the other one approaches things. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think they battled in junior formula from time to time. I know Max was fast-tracked through the system. but they did go to wheel in their junior days. So Charles has all that extra knowledge in terms of how to get the better of Max and how to deal with him. So he used that perfectly today to execute a pretty much flawless race. His first 2 wins were a bit nervy, a bit tense. He had Hamilton or Bottas breathing down his neck much of those 2 races. And today he was fully in control. Apart from that one period where Verstappen was attacking, but once he got clear of the DRS zone, he had the pace in hand to deal with it. And I was watching the sector times, and Verstappen would regularly be a tenth and a half, 2 tenths quicker in the first sector. And then Leclerc would just respond in the middle sector, which is kind of telling because it tells us that Ferrari don't just have a powerful engine. They have a car that handles well through slow corners and is good on the brakes. So I think we also saw that in the battle down into turn 1. Charles wasn't afraid to just hand Max the inside, knowing that he could get the job done on the brakes into turn 4. And for his teammate, Carlos Sainz, to be backing him up in P2, that's a dream start to the season for Ferrari. They couldn't have asked for any more. And, the horse is prancing again.
Absolutely, yeah. Ferrari are back. We've joked about it a lot and kind of said they've tried to deceive at times, but they're absolutely back. Like we said, 1-2 finish today. Charles Leclerc, he had a great battle with Max Verstappen today, going back to their old karting days when they used to fight. It's been a long time for those guys, but to see them battling out on track, it was very much a battle. It's like, right, these 2 are 2 of the best up and coming drivers in Formula One. One of them a champion, one of them a potential champion in the future. And obviously Charles Leclerc, he's become the first monegasque driver to lead the World Championship as well. He's got off to the perfect start with this season. Tom, it was fantastic from Charles today. Didn't have it all his own way in some ways. He started from pole position. Verstappen, he got very close through the undercut. They had a great battle for 3 or 4 laps. But like Aaron said, Charles Leclerc said, yeah, Max, you take the inside line, you go for it. I'm going to get you back into turn 4 again. It just looked a very controlled and composed and mature drive from him today.
Yeah, and I think today Leclerc showed why Ferrari had put their faith in him to sort of lead their championship fight and why they sort of took him on when they did and promoted him to the team at such a young age. Let's not forget that this Ferrari team is the first time since, I don't even know when, that they haven't had a current or former world champion in their ranks. I don't know when the last time, the A driver was not a world champion, because obviously you go back. Obviously, they've had Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen and Schumacher and all the historic drivers. So it's quite telling that Ferrari have put their trust in Leclerc, and he's already proved it a few times. But today, I think he showed that he's got the car underneath him. The way he dealt with Verstappen, the way he let Max overtake him, knowing that he would then get a run with DRS back up to turn 4. And then effectively do Max under braking and there was one point, I can't remember if it was the first or second time round, where Leclerc went so close to the front wing of Max's car when he almost got across him. It was so close, but it goes to show those fine margins, because I think Leclerc and Max both know each other enough to know how they race. And dare I say, had that been Hamilton and Verstappen last year, not saying anything about either driver, but I think if that would have been either one of them last year, that would have probably ended in tears. So yeah, it was a fantastic race from Leclerc. Really held his own, sort of almost not forced Max into making a mistake, but but dealt with the situation really well. Let Max almost burn up his tires, and then just a brilliant race from him.
Yeah, absolutely. The undercut was massive today in Bahrain. We've seen it a few times in the past, but the undercut was a good 3 seconds or so. But every time after the pit stops, Leclerc would just pull out a gap slowly, relentlessly. He reminded me of Alonso back in his Renault days, just extremely consistent. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he's keeping Verstappen at arm's length for most of the race. It was brilliant to see. I've waxed lyrical loads about the kid, but he's incredible. And now this season, he's in a championship contending car for the first time, I'd say, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on with this. Kudos to Carlos Sainz as well, obviously backing Leclerc up with second, another very solid finish, matching his best ever finish in the sport. And praise as well has to go to Sir Lewis Hamilton too. He rounded off the podium today in third, Phil. I mean, Mercedes look a good distance off of Ferrari and Red Bull at the top, but this was the best they could have hoped for, really. And Lewis, to his credit as well, he was challenging Perez throughout the latter stages of the race. Maybe there was some mechanical issues for Checo coming into it then, but I think today, third and fourth for Mercedes, that's the best they could have hoped for, really.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Ferrari, as the guys have already said, as everyone has said. I mean, they had the pace in testing. I know it's been discussed here in previous episodes, but to come into this race and actually have the pace advantage, put it on pole, get the start, hold off the defending world champion and that team, and then basically be able to hold over on them for the entire race, both drivers, and then be able to close the deal, it's great. Mercedes definitely third, and Lewis had to pick his pace up as the weekend went on, got to fifth in qualifying, got up to third for a moment early on, but then, of course, reality started to set in, the porpoising issues and ride height issues of the car also making the car not as drivable as the top two right now, but there's a reason why Mercedes has been there for many years. There's a reason why Lewis is one of the best ever. They were able to make the most of a bad situation. George Russell, tough qualifying, only getting ninth, but he gets a great start and just is taking a steady upward trajectory through the field. That used to be somewhat of an issue in his Williams days and an issue for the previous driver there. But in his case, he goes and takes that upward trend and takes every advantage he gets to go and end up getting a fourth place finish. And because of that, the damage limitation as what this weekend has been and what these early season races are probably going to be for Mercedes ended up becoming another podium number 183 for Lewis Hamilton. And then, which they said on the broadcast, of course. And then for George getting a fourth place finish, consolidation in points to going into next week's race. They're second in constructors, and they'll keep on working as we go on through early part of this season. But great job by the Mercedes team after basically kind of being out to lunch at the start of the weekend to end up with a third and fourth place finish when it probably didn't seem like that was going to end up happening on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they said that they didn't expect to win this race, and they've said this a lot of times in the past, and they've been up there. But this time they are genuinely off the pace of the top two teams. It was looking like it's going to be fifth and sixth, and that would have been a solid result given the circumstances. But yeah, I mean, Hamilton 183 podiums. I didn't even realize it was that many. He's probably going to end up with over 200 by the time he retires. That is an insane statistic. I didn't realize that. But yeah, he's going to do well unless Mercedes improve the car much. He's going to do well to add into his win total, keep that winning streak going. But you can't put anything past him. I was very impressed as well with George Russell this weekend. I mean, Phil mentioned there that he got ninth in qualifying. He battled through to get fourth by the end of this race, Aaron. And if anything, he kept the tyres better than what Hamilton did during the race. And it would have been very easy for him to get a bit down and get a bit, oh God, the pressure's on now. I've done a worse qualifying than Valtteri Bottas, the guy I've replaced. But in the race, he made it count. He finished fourth. A good debut, good debut as a full-time Mercedes driver, I should say. It's not his Mercedes debut, but a good weekend for him this weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he wasn't getting too down in the dumps or getting too carried away with the fourth place speaks actually volumes about the sort of environment and culture that Mercedes have, that they don't get too carried away with a bit of success, and they don't get too down in the dumps about a bad day at the office. They just keep working and they focus on what they need to focus on. So for George, and the team, Toto mentioned this as well, that they encouraged him to do something different on his preparation lap to his final run in qualifying. And that's what led to his mistake at turn one. And then he had a bit of recovery work to do, which he did. And in fairness, it was a bit of a quiet race after he'd sort of manoeuvred his way back up to P6. And that was kind of the ceiling for the moment, because he'd lost time to Lewis. It wasn't going to be a battle between the two Mercedes. And then they were sort of just lagging behind, like where Red Bull used to be, sort of not quick enough to challenge Ferrari and Mercedes, but always faster than everybody else. And Mercedes found themselves in that sort of no man's land. So for George to be recovering, that puts any doubt to bed that he's not able to make his way through the traffic. And it's just extra data in the data banks for him, because he's got to learn to work with these people. Of course, he knows them from days gone by, but he hasn't raced with them week in, week out. And that relationship with his engineer, which I think is still the same guy who engineered Bottas, Ricardo, I think his name is. So it's just a learning process for George, and there's no need for him to be crying because he's not beating Lewis and jumping up and down because he does. It's just learning, and it's a process. Trust the process, as they say. So it will come good for George. And today is just another day that he gets to drive a Mercedes. And, I'm very jealous of him. I would like to drive that car.
Yeah, I think we'd all love to drive that car, but then we'd immediately realise why these guys drive these cars and we don't, because I don't think they'd be too easy to get around. I think stalling it in the pit lane is definitely something most of us have managed to do. But yeah, so Russell not getting too carried away with his fourth place, despite it being a good result. But Haas are getting carried away with Kevin Magnussen. This is a guy that didn't even have a contract 2 weeks ago. He wasn't even meant to be in Formula One this year, and he's only gone and got his car into fifth. 10 points, more points than Haas have scored in the past 2 seasons combined. I mean, Tom, this is an absolute feel-good result for Formula One. This shows what these regulations were designed to do. Bring the team that were at the back near to the front. It's what we want to see. It's a massive shock, and it's absolutely deserved.
Yeah, and sorry, I just had a mess on my phone. Yeah, I'm so happy to see K-Mag back on the grid, because I quite like him anyway. He's got a bit of stamina balance. You're a bit like Max. Maybe he's a bit of a dick if you think about it that way. But it was nice to see him back. It's nice to see Haas looking happy, not looking like they were treading on eggshells all the time. It was nice to see them doing well. It's nice to see everybody with a smile on their face. And that car looks genuinely quick. I think that Ferrari power unit in the back of it has got a fair amount to do with it. But Haas had to put a lot of their resources last year into this year. And so far, it looks like it's paying off. I mean, K-Mag comes back into F1 after a year, brand new regulations, and he finishes P5. Yeah, okay, would have probably been P7. Had both Red Bulls not conked out. But still, he was right up there in the points. He qualified well in the top 10. Schumacher was, Mick was not too far behind him. Got a bit unlucky at the end to miss out on points. But yeah, it's such a feel good story, and also it's a massive middle finger to Mazepin, which is just even better. Because basically, K-Mag could have been just driving around, just sticking 2 fingers out the cockpit the whole time. Just saying, we don't need your dirty Russian money. We're fine as we are, thanks, hon. It's a brilliant result for Haas. Hopefully, it gives the team a bit of a boost, a bit of confidence. A bit of something. Hopefully, it just gives them something that they can go, right, come on, we've got a good result. Mick was just about there, and Mick will only get better, I hope. And I really, really hope. And I think now that for Haas, they've hit the lowest of the low, which was last year, and they've got past it. And now they're no longer the laughing stock of F1. They are now a genuine threat in the midfield, where they should be and where they used to be. And it makes me so bloody happy to see them there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, they've been through an absolutely terrible time recently. Like I said, I think on the preview for this race, there's been a dark cloud over the team for a while, but that's lifted now. And yeah, they absolutely deserved it. They were the best midfield finisher. They were best of the rest this weekend because of that. I believe that makes them third in the constructors as well after this race, which is just incredible to see. The Ferrari power cars doing a lot better this season. They all seem to have moved forward, and that includes Alfa Romeo. Now, I wouldn't have been surprised going into this weekend if Alfa Romeo were the worst car on the grid this season, but it doesn't seem like that at all. Alfa have got a genuinely decent car, and in the hands of Valtteri Bottas, Phil. I mean, obviously he got a really poor start, but he battled his way through the field and ended up in 6th place. Alfa's best result for a long time as well, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I figure Tom or Aaron might know better than me in regards to Alfa Sauber the last time they were up there in a while. I always remember Sergio Perez's podiums back years ago for them. But, for Bottas to do his usual porridge start and then somehow or another come back from it, which, to be completely honest, barely ever happened in a Mercedes, shows how good the car is. Zhou Guanyu, who, for whatever people want to say about him, he's a solid enough driver. He has proven in Formula 2 he has pace. Alpine believed in him enough to have him around for how many years? And in his first Formula 1 race, not carried himself very well, but just kind of following along is probably the wrong way. I think he just kept his head clean, did everything he needed to do, and you get a double points result. The same way as Haas goes and gets 10 points today. First time in years they've scored points. First time they've been relevant in a long time. No egghead. You have Alfa Sauber finally back to a level where it seems like they used to be many years ago. Bottas hungry, Bottas wanting to go out there and show he still has something. And then you have a young rookie who brings finances, but he also has some pace. And who knows what this season really holds in regards to this midfield. But for these Ferrari-powered teams, it definitely looks early on that they're in a good situation. And of course, Zhou Guanyu is not going to have any competition for Rookie of the Year. It's more about going and learning and building upon his skill set as he goes along for however long his career may be in Formula One, but also for Valtteri Bottas to build this team and kind of leave a legacy in Formula One of being a builder and being somebody who made progress with smaller teams. It was a good run for both of them. Good pit stops. Just a good positive weekend for this team. Which like last year we talked about Haas. You talk about Alfa Romeo. There weren't very many bright spots. So to be in that position is good as we start 2022.
Yeah, it's good to see both of those teams being up there and getting points, not even 5 points, just getting points as well, getting them on the board, getting them early on. Haas with 10, Alfa Romeo with 9. It's great to see a double points finish for Alfa Romeo as well. It's been a long time since we've seen that. And they're absolutely, scraping around to try and get a 9th or a 10th last season. And here they are with a 6th and a 10th and a point on his debut as well for Zhou Guanyu as well. That's good to see, because I'm sure he's had a lot of critics, a lot of people thinking, like Phil said, oh, he's just in it for the money, it's just a Chinese pay driver or whatever. He kept his nose clean. He absolutely deserves his point. Not everybody managed to do that during this race. So, fair play to the kid. And move on to 7th place. And another guy who's come under some criticism despite his win last season, Esteban Ocon, Aaron, 7th place, he kind of ghosted into that. He kept his nose clear, but he was genuinely faster than Fernando Alonso this race. Alonso was really struggling on the tyres, and Ocon, I'd say a very, very solid race for Alpine today.
Yeah, like you say, they kind of ghosted around in there, didn't they, in the midfield? I mean, they might be bright pink at the moment, but that's all that they're really noticeable about, because their pace isn't stunning. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not good either. So they're just in that midfield area, which, if El Plan really is going to come to fruition, then, they need to rewrite the plan, I think. So for Ocon to actually deliver a P7 is a little bit of a surprise result, really, because it didn't really seem to be threatening a sensible points finish. But, that's the sort of drive that an experienced Grand Prix racer pulls out of the bag, and that's what Esteban is becoming now. He's got 2 years at Force India Racing Point, whatever they want to be called, under his belt, and now a couple of years at Renault Alpine, whatever they want to be called as well. So, he's starting to mature, and this is the sort of the first step. And he was faster than Alonso. I think he actually legitimately overtook him on the track. I mean, with DRS, of course, but he made that overtake and he never looked back. And Fernando, like you say, was struggling on tyres. He was one of the first drivers to pit. I think he pitted on the same lap as Hamilton, if I can remember. It might have been
around then, yeah.
Yeah, I think they were the first two drivers to pit.
Yeah, lap 12.
Yeah. So for Esteban to pull off a strategy where he looked after the tyres a bit better, that speaks volumes to, first of all, how he's managed to get the car set up and how he's accessing the car's potential, and just then delivering the performance. Because at the end of the day, it's the results that count in this business, and you need to score points to stay relevant. And Ocon has got himself one up over Alonso in the first race. So El Plan is in the mud. It's official.
There's been so many jokes around El Plan already. Like, just the very start of this season, this is going to be a running joke. I can tell it will be. But not a bad day for Alpine. They've kind of stayed around where they were last season. They've not gone back like some teams, which I will begrudgingly get into later. But yeah, Alpine not looking too bad at all, really. Double points from today. Not spectacular, but they did the job at the end of the day, so that's all you can really ask for. Also doing the job today, Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, he had a poor qualifying. He was out in Q1, but again, he kept his nose clear. He had a fairly decent race, just kept his tyres well, and again, a bit like Alpine, just sort of ghosted into an 8th place. But at the end of the day, Tom, fair play. That's what he needs to do more of. That's what after last season he needs to do more of, and he's got 4 points on the board for AlphaTauri to start the season.
Yeah, when I saw that Tsunoda went out in Q1 and then we saw Gasly into Q2, I thought, oh god, here we go again. Because last year he had showed some significant signs of improvement. But like you said, he kept his nose clean. He was the only Red Bull power car to not shit the bed today. So there is also that. Maybe he wasn't driving hard enough or something. But he had a solid if unspectacular race. We didn't see his Netflix inspired rivalry with Ocon coming out to play today. But we also didn't hear him effing and blinded on the radio for once, which is nice. And also we didn't see much of him, which I think, given he's a driver I've said this before and I'll say it again, because he's a driver in the Red Bull program, I think it's good that we didn't see much of him, because it means he can just get his head down, crack on with what he needs to do, and not have not have the Sith Lord that is Helmut Marko looking over him all the time, and that he can just sort of crack on with what he needs to do. He can get his head down. He can focus on driving better. He can focus on getting more experience, getting used to the car, because obviously, he has been in F1 for a year, so he's familiar with some elements. But like everybody else on the grid this year, there are other elements which he's not going to be familiar with, because the cars are very inherently different. So it was a solid weekend. He started the season off on the right foot, I'd say. Quali needs work. We saw that last year. But his actual race performance, from what we saw, which, like I said, was not a lot of it, it seems to be decent enough.
Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't amazing, but at the end of the day, he wasn't spinning the car. He wasn't overdriving it. He kept it on the road. He got some points. Credit where it's due. Fair play to him. And I hope this season continues in this kind of vein for him. He was slower than Gasly this weekend. Let's not get around that. But he was a lot closer to him than what he was during most of last season. So that's a very positive sign for him. He's just got to keep it going. He's got to keep the consistency. And we've got to Saudi Arabia next week. So that is not an easy track to get around. So we'll see how he gets on there. That'll be more of a telling one for him, if anything. And we'll move on. We've given him a little mention when we're talking about Ocon, but Fernando Alonso, 9th place today. Really struggled with the tyres. He did not look happy at all. He was legitimately overtaken by Ocon. I don't think it was team orders. I think he was genuinely slower than this weekend. I mean, it's only one race, Phil, but if you were Alonso right now, would you be a bit worried? Because this is a track that he knows very well, and it's just starting the season off, and he did look very uncomfortable today.
He's won there in, I think, 2 different cars too, from what I remember. So to be kind of not be second best in your own team, and also just kind of driving around and being passed by younger drivers, the likes of Tsunoda, Guan Yu, and your teammate, that's probably, the plan ain't working so good for old Fred. Whether the car's pink or blue, things are going to have to change up real quick. I know Saudi was a great track for him last year. He felt very comfortable there. It's going to be interesting to see how they come up here next week, because he did really well there at Saudi. Or no, I'm mixing up with Qatar. Sorry. But I think but they're probably going to go there too. But the fact of the matter is, you don't want to get beat by your teammate. That's one of the main things in Formula One. And when you're a 2-time world champion and all the great things that Fred is, and how everyone talks about him in such glowing terms for his outstanding personality, the reality was he was outrun by his teammate, and he was outrun by young guns today. And I mean, he was less than a second ahead of Zhou Guanyu there at the end of the race. So they need to work on stuff. Pink Panthers are definitely not as fast as they probably want to be. Engine performance is still kind of not the greatest, but I think that'll probably improve here in a couple of years' time when they have a customer coming along. But for now, it's going to be hard work to get their car a little bit better on pace to compete with those Ferrari-powered cars in regards to the midfield and AlphaTauri, to see who's going to be 4th place and 5th, and from there on in regards to constructor standings.
Yeah, Alpine won't be overly happy with how this weekend has gone, but they do have a genuine chance to get 4th this year, which would be progress for them for sure, because they finished 5th last year. But I don't think they had the 5th fastest car. I said it a lot. I think AlphaTauri had the 5th fastest car last year. So for them to be legitimately 4th would be great progress, but they've got to beat the likes of Haas and Alfa Romeo, who also look fast. So we'll see how that goes for them. And another guy, the final point scorer today on his debut, Zhou Guanyu. A solid performance by him. He got into Q2 in qualifying. It wasn't a fluke by any means. Kept his nose clean, and he's got to be happy with that, Aaron. He was a long way behind Bottas, obviously, but Bottas is an extremely experienced and successful campaigner compared to him. So I think Zhou will be very, very happy with that. Something to build on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a solid weekend for him to build on, because it's a tough gig jumping into a Formula One car and delivering immediately. How many times do we see debutants get in and they go out in Q1, or they have an accident? It happens fairly often. So for Zhou to, first of all, get the car into Q2, qualify respectably, and then manage his race into a points-paying position, that is about as good as it could possibly have been. Bear in mind, Bottas is qualifying 6th and finishing 6th. He's done a really good job with what that car is potentially able to do. And you've got to then factor in the experience of the driver driving it. So he wouldn't have been completely familiar with certain procedures and the way to interact with the tyres, and just how you handle your engineers, and all that data that you're having to try and crunch overnight. Try and go into bed with all of that on your mind. You wake up seeing the Da Vinci Code. So for him to have delivered that is really actually quite good. And I've been skeptical about his level going into the season, and he's sort of proved me wrong a little bit, which is fine, because I put myself out there to say I'm not quite sure he's ready, but he's showing me that he is, and long may it continue, because if he can produce that and he can deliver respectable performances, then fantastic. And Formula One as a sport has a market in China that they're trying to crack, and having a Chinese driver would go a long way to that. So it's just positive vibes for everybody if drivers are doing well.
Yeah, absolutely, fully deserved, and he put on some good overtakes, and one of them on Mick Schumacher, Tom, who I was hoping to see get his first point in the sport, but he ended up just finishing outside of it in 11th. It's difficult for him because obviously he was a long way off of Magnussen this weekend, but Magnussen is a much more experienced driver, so disappointing for Schumacher, but promising in the way that he was so close to his first point. It will come soon, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if Mick this year is going to be a bit like George Russell, where over the last few years, where it's like, is he going to get points? Is he going to get points? And I think we might see him try to get closer and closer over the next few races. Certainly this season, especially if that Haas is as good as it appears to be. I felt for him today, because at the end of the safety car restart, he was in the points, and then Tsunoda did him, and Alonso did him. And then with the Red Bull DNF, I think he did it finish. I think someone else did him as well, possibly Bottas or Joe. I can't remember who. And I can't remember who pointed. He ended up finishing 11th, and it was like so close, but not quite. And it was like, today's not the day, but I feel it will come this year. Probably the circuit that he's more familiar with from his F2 days, and from obviously his races last year. So a circuit which is going to suit the car quite well. I think there's a good chance that we'll see him there as a combination of on merit, and if there's a bit of a swing of luck that goes his way, whether it's a DNF or an accident or whatever in front of him. It was he's hopefully he can learn from K-Mag as well, because obviously K-Mag's got boatloads of experience in F1 and racing and in Haas. So all three. Plus, Schumacher's now not going to be borderline fighting with his teammate. He's not going to have that sort of toxic relationship that he had with Mazepin last year, which I said on a few podcasts and stuff last year before I knew really how bad it was behind the scenes. I said last year that Mazepin, he gets a bad rap, all the rest of it, and some of it was deserved. Having seen Drive to Survive and having seen how much of a bell end his dad is and stuff behind the scenes, all the hate is fully warranted. So I take back everything I said last year. The guy's a cock, and I'm glad he's gone from F1. And now Schumacher can absolutely flourish.
Oh, we do a lot of things here on the Grid Talk podcast, but sitting on the fence is definitely not one of them. I absolutely echo your thoughts there, Tom. Anybody who has seen Drive to Survive will know how. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nikita Mazepin is not a nice person, but I could tell he definitely gets some of those characteristics from his dad, because they're both bad. They're both really bad, and I'm very glad to see them out of Formula One for sure. And Haas will be glad to see the back of them as well. We'll not mention them too much going forward, hopefully, because they're not involved in the sport anymore, and they won't be anytime soon again. We move on. So next up, we've got Lance Stroll in 12th, and Nico Hülkenberg super subbing in this weekend for Sebastian Vettel, who was unfortunately had COVID. Hopefully, he'll be back for the next race, but we'll see. We could have Hulk at Saudi Arabia as well. 12th and 17th for Aston Martin this weekend. And to be honest with you, if anything, Phil, that flatters them, because you could argue they were the slowest team in Bahrain this weekend. They were absolutely awful.
Yeah, it's not a good sign with their new team principal that I'm not going to say his name, because it's really not good to say in an audio form. The fact of the matter is their car was just as bad as his name is. And I mean, it's Lance Stroll. I mean, it doesn't really matter. People who listen to my show or listen to this show, my general disdain for the guy, notwithstanding, their car does suck. But I'll give credit to Hülkenberg not driving a Formula One car in a while and just jumping in and out qualifying him was nice. That made me happy. But when you're nowhere, when you're in no man's land, you're in nowheresville, really doesn't count for anything. When you're actually we're going to finish 14th and 19th, or I guess whatever, if the 13th and 18th or something, like whatever, however it would have worked out with one team not falling out there right at the end. They're lost. I think there's like a general consistency to the next three teams. There's not just the power unit, which was brought up, of course, not only in our chat but on the race broadcast. But the fact that none of these teams have hit on this rules package change very well. Now maybe at a smoother circuit, they might that might turn around. But at least for this week, and I would venture to say next week at a track that is in ridiculous and is basically an overrated go-kart track, that it's going to be a problem for Aston Martin and their sponsor and all that, for Stroll F1 in regards to their potential. And I'm sure Sebastian Vettel's sitting there watching this race, trying to recover from COVID and saying, "My goodness, what did I get myself into?" And there's other people I think that are kind of in that same boat here that we're going to talk about shortly.
Yeah, we said this was a make or break year for Aston Martin with the big regulation changes, and going off the evidence of this race, it seems like it's going to be a break. It's bad, Like I said, 12th and 17th. I guess Stroll just went up the order slightly because he didn't do another pit stop or something, because he was well at the back with Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg out-qualified him as well, despite Stroll having loads of hours in the car testing, and Hulkenberg only going in it for the practice sessions this weekend. That's a bad sign on the driver front. It's not looking good for Aston Martin. The Mercedes-powered cars, all of them, including Mercedes, obviously have gone back relative to where they were last year. Ferrari, of course, improved, but Mercedes-powered cars have gone down. And Aaron, unfortunately, I'm just going to skip a little bit ahead here and give you the McLarens. I'm a McLaren fan as well, and I am absolutely distraught by this. I had a bad feeling because obviously they didn't get too many miles in testing. Ricciardo's only coming back from COVID just now. 14th and 15th, and I said that Magnussen getting 5th was absolutely deserved, but 14th and 15th was absolutely deserved for McLaren as well. They were miles off this week.
Oh, it was the dark Honda days again, wasn't it? Revisited. It was. I just didn't quite know what to make of it. I was really hopeful that they just sort of didn't get on top of the car yesterday, and then they'd moved through today, but no, nothing worked. The car didn't work. The strategy didn't work. I don't think either driver was probably in their best possible physical condition, because one's coming back from illness and one is then overworked from testing. A tough day for McLaren, really tough day. But the thing is, it's really strange. I still think they have a fast car. Like, I can't quite get my head around how, this might just be me trying to work out a competitive order and wanting McLaren to be up there. But they've been able to get some lap time out of the car when they've been able to get the car in like a working window, but they just seem to be really, really struggling. And I also can't work out whether the Mercedes power unit is worse than the others, or if their cars are just suffering with porpoising or just general chassis issues more than the Red Bull, Renault, or Ferrari powered cars. It's a really odd sort of way to be looking at things. Like, they've had a terrible day. They've had a terrible weekend. It's not getting any better out in the States either. So it's just one of those days, unfortunately. That's the way sport is. Sometimes you just have days and weekends where things simply do not go your way, and whatever you try doesn't work. You're just onto a loser sometimes. And there will be other days where, like Monza last year, where McLaren could just do no wrong. They made the start and they got the 1-2 finish. Today it was the strategy not paying off. They couldn't make any progress. They were battling everyone at the back. Really tough. But if there's a team that I would have faith in getting on top of it, it's McLaren. They always find a way. And in Andreas Seidel, they've got a really good team boss. He'll keep chins up. And I like Zach Brown as well. He's completely the opposite of Ron Dennis. I mean, he likes a bit of colour on the car, so that's a good start. They'll make that car fast. They'll get on top of it. They might have still been hamstrung by the brake issue, so they might have just been playing it safe with that. Who knows? But it's a 23 race season. There's a lot of opportunity to pick up more points in the future for McLaren.
Yeah, it's a long old season. So let's hope that McLaren can improve, because we kind of had them up in the top three teams, but they were a long way away from that. You know, they're in the midfield slog. But the thing is with this midfield though, they all seem quite close. There's not a lot really between them. There's not really, even as bad as Aston Martin have been, I wouldn't say the back markers really. They're down there, but they're not like miles off. So yeah, McLaren can improve. They've got two great drivers. They've got some fantastic personnel on that team. Um, let's hope they can improve. I mean, we said that Aston Martin and McLaren have got worse for the Mercedes, Mercedes engines, but Williams has stayed around the same. Williams has stayed about the same, down there, but not miles off. Alexander Albon getting 13th today. Nicholas Latifi 16th. I think he had a very poor weekend this weekend. I'll be honest. He seemed miles off his teammate. But for Albon though, Tommy was running the points for a little bit. It was encouraging. It seems like he's gelled quite well with the car. He just needs a little bit more pace to get points.
Yeah, it was promising from Albon. He looked somewhat promising. I didn't. Maybe it's just a Williams thing this year, but I think we all got a bit caught up in their sort of progress last year and this year. I think they've come back down to earth with a bit of a bump. Albon looked all right. He was having a couple of good ding dongs with. I can't remember who it was. He was. I think it was both the Alfa Romeos actually. I'm fairly certain he was having a tussle with Bottas, and then Guan Yu came up behind him and said hi, and then had to go at him as well. Paraphrasing slightly. Albon looks all right. I think you've got to give him a bit of a break because he hasn't raced in a competitive F1 environment for a year, and the car is different, all the rest of it. I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm saying we need to look at everything, because obviously he's because he's coming in somewhat cold. I know he's done testing and all the rest of it, but he's not sort of like in as much of a groove as people who've been on the grid for a couple of years now. But it didn't look promising for Williams. Did not look good at all.
No, they didn't look great, that's for sure. But they weren't too far for points in the end. But yeah, they still got a ways to go. I wouldn't say they've made any progress since last year. Maybe they've gone back a little bit relatively. But we'll see what happens. It's a long old season. Alex Albon is going to get better as he gets more used to the car and everything. We'll see how he gets on. Now, a team that had a lot of pace, we've covered all the guys who actually finished the race, but a team that had a lot of pace but did not manage to finish the race. I think we've heard now just because of a fuel pump issue for both cars. Verstappen was up in second. Sergio Perez was up in fourth. They were looking comfortable before mechanical issues kind of inflicted both cars and they dropped out. I mean, Phil, the car is quick, but very unreliable. We've seen that three of the four, because Gasly retired as well, three of the four Red Bull powered cars didn't finish the race. And, to finish first you must finish, and they did not finish.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that Red Bull was kind of holding back, and maybe that was part of why they were holding back, because they knew that they had these issues during the testing. They had the pace during qualifying, not of Ferrari, but they were right up there, and they're ahead of the Mercedes. But in the end, once you got past, I don't know which pit stop, second or third pit stop, Verstappen's on the horn to GP and yelling about this thing and that thing going wrong with the car. And then, Perez, it just kind of came out of nowhere right after, of course, Max's problem started. And it literally happened right to Sergio. They were up there all day. Max had chances, passed, moaned about not going too slow on one of the out laps and could have passed him. But really, Leclerc, as we've said or discussed earlier, had the pace advantage. But he was going to get second, which would be a perfectly good start to a title defense in a 23-race season. Sergio Perez was on for fourth with a possibility of third, which is generally, considering how his start of the season went last year, would have been perfectly fine. And then within the last few laps, it all just kind of went away. Now, we know Red Bull will come back. We know that Red Bull are going to win races this year. They have the second best car as of now, really. Verstappen, they had their battle and all last year with Mercedes, so they're perfectly capable. But if these mechanical issues and gremlins do exist in this car, it's something to be said where 23 race season, only 4 power units or 3 power units. I don't even remember. Like they keep on cutting the number of power units and they add the more races. That could really not only will you have your grid penalty issue, but you're gonna have situations where they're gonna have to, dial it back to go and keep things kind of working. Where at that point, then you're going to need to have a 1.5 mile lead or whatever to go and hold on for victories, or you're going to be giving up pace to other teams like the likes of Mercedes and some of the midfield runners. So that's the concern. It's not a great look after you go and get what you got at Abu Dhabi, but I wouldn't be hitting the sirens just yet. I figure they have plenty of development and plenty of people in place that will start figuring things out, not only in Milton Keynes but also in Japan, to go and make sure that they'll be in the right place. It may not be Saudi. I figure they would, but it'll be there by Imola or whatever they call it now these days for the next race after that.
Yeah, Red Bull, like I said, they've had some mechanical issues for sure, but the car is very quick. It is, I'd say, almost as quick as the Ferrari. I think Ferrari got a little edge over them, at least around Bahrain. So, yeah, it's obviously very bad that they've not scored any points, but the car is very fast. They'll be up there. They'll be up there come the end of the season. But like Phil mentioned, the big concern for them is the fact that now I think they have 3 for the whole season, so they now got 2 for 22 races. Engines or whatever the actual issue was. If they have to retire those engines, I don't know, but it's going to be a long old ride for them. They're going to have to take some engine penalties later on, and if they are in a championship fight with Ferrari, that could be a deciding factor for sure. But yeah, so those are all the teams, those are all the drivers. We've ran through them all. I will say that if you give us a 5-star review on iTunes, if you are enjoying the show, we'll give you a shout out at the start of the next show, as always, and give us a 5-star review on Spotify as well, because you can do reviews on there now, which is fantastic. Also head over to our store if you want to check out our merchandise. Obviously we got mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, all that good stuff, like the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. So yeah, go and check out on there if you want to support us financially, which is always greatly appreciated. So we're going to do our driver of the day vote now. Charles Leclerc, unsurprisingly, did win driver of the day today on the vote, but I'm going to give a shout out to Kevin Magnussen. To, literally, like I said, 2 weeks ago, he didn't have a contract. He wasn't meant to be in Formula One. Everybody was saying that it was either going to be Giovinazzi or it's going to be Fittipaldi in that second Haas seat. But no, Magnussen came out of nowhere and he's absolutely arrived with a bang. It's fantastic to see him up there. One of Haas's best finishes in their history as well, which it's just a fantastic result for them. Aaron, who's your pick for driver of the day?
I think Kevin Magnussen's the obvious choice. It's just such a feel-good story for Formula One, isn't it? Like the whole situation surrounding the Mazepin family was unsavory, even at the beginning, and it got even more so recently. So for Kevin to come back in and perform the way he has and just be so happy and smiley, and he can smash as many doors as he likes tonight, I think, and Gunther won't care, because they've got points and everyone in the Haas team deserves a big pat on the back, or a beer, whatever they choose, for working their socks off all of last year, developing this car, and they really have catapulted themselves into the midfield quite unexpectedly. I mean, how much of that is the car versus the power unit and the circuit remains to be seen, but if you're having a good day, you've got to absolutely milk it until the cows come home.
Exactly. And because Haas also know how quickly it can all go away, but hopefully that will not happen for them again. They seem to have a good car. So, Phil, are you going to go for the Great Dane as well?
I mean, being the American part here in this show, I would generally, because of also Gene Haas's car won the NASCAR race last week, which was also my favorite driver. also won, so I lost my crap. I wasn't as excited about Kevin Magnussen finishing fifth, but the fact of the matter is it's a great thing for Kevin Magnussen to finish fifth. However, I'm going to go with Zhou Guanyu. I feel like for a rookie compared to last year's rookie class and some of the stuff that was going on with that, some of the argy-bargy that was involved there, to have just a nice, solid race for a team on the upswing. Going with Porridge probably would have been a call, but I think I'm going to go with Joe, who went up through the field, gets points in his first race in Formula One, having to deal with some of the heat that comes with his situation and might continue to be. The fact is he did a good job, and I want to give credit to him and to that team. You know, they haven't really been there for the last few years. So, I mean, I think K-Mags is the big choice. Of course, Leclerc won driver today, but I'm going to go with Zhou Guanyu here. I'm not sure how many times I'm really going to be able to say that this year, so I figure I'll go and get it in now.
Fair enough. That is a good choice. Yeah, a solid debut for him for sure this weekend. Solid throughout the weekend. Tom, what's your pick for driver of the day?
I'm going to say Leclerc. You know, I very nearly said Magnussen. But if you look at how Leclerc held off the reigning champion, fought back twice, 3 times, just drove a defensive race, drove the perfect race, led every lap, fastest lap, pole position to win. It's a bit of a clean sweep for him. So, so I was really, really impressed. But there were good drives up and down the grid today.
Yeah, there's some real good contenders for sure. Like we mentioned, Bottas, even Hamilton getting third in the Mercedes. That's impressive in itself. Ocon, he was good. Tsunoda getting 8th. It's surprised to see him up there for sure. So yeah, it's some good drives for sure to start the season. Even Max Verstappen, I mean, obviously not his fault he retired. He did still a good job, in my opinion, to challenge Leclerc like he did. But yeah, so we'll move on from that. So yeah, be sure to give us a like on Facebook as well, F1 Chronicle on there, as well as follow us on Twitter at F1 Chronicle if you want to catch us live as the show goes out, because we're live streaming this on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We're doing fantastic on there. And leave a comment on as well. And we've got a lot of comments to go through, but we will go through those in the post show. So thank you for your patience, everybody who's still listening. I'll give you guys a chance to plug your outlets as well. All you got different podcasts to go through. So Aaron, tell us about the 5 Red Lights podcast.
So you can find the 5 Red Lights podcast on pretty much every possible podcast platform in the world, and also on YouTube. So I do like race reviews, just general chit chat about what's going on in the Formula One world. George and Tom, you guys have been on, and we spoke about Mercedes and Red Bull. So I'm hoping to have more guests on over the course of the year. I do the flying lap, which I'll be doing. I might not do it tonight. I'll probably do it in the morning. So I'll be trying to give you all the headlines from the weekend quicker than Charles Leclerc's pole position lap. Sometimes I manage to do it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm hopelessly too slow. There's just too much to cram into a minute and a half. It's impossible. So there's lots going on. There's plenty more to come this year. And you can find me on Twitter at 5_red_lights and on Instagram 5 Red Lights.
Yeah, definitely check Aaron's show out. Like you said, I've been on, and me and Tom were on the predictions show, and already they are looking absolutely miles off the mark, as we expect after one race. So, so there we go. Phil, tell us about the GSP.
Yeah, Grip Strip podcast, just as Aaron's show. Basically, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find a Grip Strip podcast. Josh Fine and I talk about not only Formula One, we talk about all things basically in American racing. We talk about world racing. We covered IndyCar, Formula One, sports cars, all in the last episode, along with me losing my crap because my favorite NASCAR driver won. So the fact is you get a little bit of everything there with the Grip Strip podcast. George has been a guest on a couple of times. The time difference, of course, makes it a little more difficult to have other guests from the UK on, but I'm willing to work with that to make it happen. But we're on at GripStripPod on Twitter. We do have a new YouTube page. The GripStrip Podcast is now on YouTube. Josh made that page. So like and subscribe there. We have the video from our last episode up. Going to try to transfer old episodes that are just on sound there. You can find me at Philip G. Mathew and Josh at JP Huffine. So yeah, thanks for having us on, George, as always, and great to always talk about Formula One here on the Grid Talk podcast.
Yeah, always great having you on, Phil. And yes, definitely check out the GSP. Phil and Josh are very good for a long form podcast. I always enjoy listening to those guys with that. Cover a lot of different motorsports. So I envy you for that, because I don't have the time for that. I've got the time for Formula One, and that's kind of about it with me these days. Tom, tell us about everything F1. I'm guessing you guys cover everything to do with F1.
Did you guess? Yeah,
exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we are everything F1. We cover, funny enough, everything F1 related. But we're also branching out a bit more into F2, F3, IndyCar, and some other some other motorsport endeavors this year as we've expanded our team. You can find us across all our social platforms with the handle at JoinEF1. We have the website, which was redone recently, which is everythingf1.com. The Everything F1 podcast, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts, really. I'm not going to list them all because my brain's not that big. And we also have a YouTube channel which we're beginning to grow, which is, you guessed it, Everything F1.
No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, they are a fantastic show. I've been on that one as well, and definitely check them out. They get some brilliant guests on. Really good to listen to. I don't have a big brain, but I'm going to list all the platforms that we are available on, because I've got them written down here as always. So yes, check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast, and the F1 Chronicle website, f1chronicle.com. And also, like Owain mentioned in the show yesterday, we're available on Sky now as well. If you have a Sky Glass TV or you're a Sky Q customer, you can head over to there, go into the podcast section, and Grid Talk is on there. Unbelievably, I was, as a true Brit would say, I was dead chuffed when I heard that. I could not believe it. Fantastic news. I ask us to you guys as well. Thank you for all your support. Honestly, it's been an amazing journey, and we're going to bring you every single race, every single qualifying session, and every single preview for those races this season, just like we have in the past, and keep going with the Fireside series as well, which Tom Horrocks is pumping out some fantastic interviews as well. So definitely check those out if you haven't already. We should have another one out on this Wednesday as well. But before that, we have the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix preview, which will be live from 7 p.m. UK time tomorrow. That is Monday, if you're listening tomorrow. So yeah, it'll be on the same day this goes out on the audio platforms. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Really do appreciate it as always.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure as always.
Yeah, fantastic having you on. And yes, like I said, Louis will be back tomorrow to host the Grid Talk podcast for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix preview. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We'll see you for the next one. Goodbye. There we go. So we've had thanks to everybody who's commented on the live stream. We've had a lot of comments from what I can see. Let's try and go through some of these. Let's scroll up. There we go.
Let me guess. Connor Walker.
Wow.
I've not, mate. I ain't seen him. I ain't seen him.
We need to send out a search party.
Yeah, make sure he's all right. Bless him. Yeah. Let's have a look. So, individual one. Thank you for your comments. You've said that Max will come back. Ferrari seems to have 2 temps on there at the moment. I think that's probably about right, to be honest. Ferrari seem a little bit faster, but I think Max is probably quicker than Sainz, like qualifying kind of showed. So it could be a big battle between those two this year.
Officially.
I think Sainz was a little bit off the pace today. He started on used softs while Charles started on the new ones, and then it sort of flipped around in the second stint, but Sainz just didn't cruise up to the back of them. I was a bit disappointed with Sainz, to be honest. He should have been on pole position, I think. And then, because he delivered that first lap, and I think he made a mistake on his second lap. But, Carlos is a smooth operator. He'll come back, and I'm sure he'll win a race this year.
I don't think he's the best qualifier, from what I remember. Not on the same level as Leclerc.
Leclerc has always been that fast. He's always been known more for the one lap and not really being able to always have it in the race. Carlos has made his bones in races, I think. I mean, the fact that Ferrari is up there, to me, speaks volumes compared to where they have been over recent years. I mean, that right now there's a sort of defined 1, 2, 3, but I think this year with the new regulations, along with the caps, we'll see how all these teams have managed those and how that will affect the development, for some of the teams, especially, of course, Mercedes, amongst others, to see where they'll be in the long run. I was sitting here watching just as we were ending the show, and the IndyCar race had quite an end too. So for those that are into the IndyCars, with Scott McLaughlin getting passed on the outside on the final turn by his teammate Joseph Newgarden to lose the race after having the lead for a while. So
that explains why he was sort of sitting by his car. I thought he was dehydrated or something.
He had just got snookered by his veteran teammate for that win. But a 1-2 start to his 2022 season, not bad. He's still the points leader, so it doesn't really hurt. And some of the teams
looking strong out there.
Not a lot of issues for a lot of guys today at Texas. So,
Well, I've got another comment here from Ven Starlord. He's put laps 17, 18, and 19 were best. Unfortunate for Max, he didn't see it off to the end, but he will bounce back. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking when I saw Verstappen retiring, that was genuinely a shame. I'm not a fan of his. I admire him as a driver. I think he's incredibly quick, but you don't like to see that no matter who you support. I felt good for him. I really did, because I thought he could have. I knew he was having problems, but I thought he could have held it out to the end. I mean, it's a horrible way to start for Red Bull. It really is, because it should have been so much more. But as it is, they're 44 points behind Ferrari now in the constructors. It's a big gap to make up at any point in the season.
Well, it just gives Christian Horner something else to complain about to TV people.
Yep.
Friday, he was like, "Oh, we were on the wrong end of all the FIA's decisions," and Damon Hill was like, "Really? Are you sure?"
Yes, Damon Hill, a man known for his impartiality when broadcasting.
Yeah, no. But still, I mean,
Karen whining. That's what I was thinking about. I'm like, what is he going to cry about? Oh yeah, the last 3 laps and how the world closed in on Red Bull there. So Karen will start crying. I mean, they're trending. He's trending on Twitter yet again, just because of the last 3 laps. So it tells you all you need to know. I mean, that's what they're going to be talking to him about on Friday. Boo-hoo, our car's broke. Shut up, you assholes.
Verstappen actually didn't play it very well against Leclerc, because
he was too aggressive.
Yeah, he should have waited for the turn 4. If he'd waited for turn 4, he'd have won the race.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Well,
at least on one of them attempts, because he just went for turn 1 no matter what. Like, he was so far behind.
The last one, he was all locked up. It was just like, is that even staying on the island?
Yeah. That was the one where it's like, okay, yeah.
You're
just trying to shoot the moon, and you think that it's like the Senna go for a gap and hope he turns into you crap. And he knew that wasn't going to work. And Leclerc was like, oh, yeah, I've already seen this like 3 times. Just let him go and blow himself up. Went by, and that was a race. I mean, if he really had the pace advantage and they really thought they had that pace advantage, you have 3 DRS zones. You go and give yourself a chance, like you said, Aaron, at turn 4, or you give yourself a chance on the backside of the track. But I think some of the issues that he was having with turning the car might have been part of the reason why he was putting so much emphasis on the turn 1 pass. Because I think there was also a little bit more of an advantage on the DRS side on turn 1 compared to the other 2 zones. But hey, who knows?
Yeah, you do get that massive slipstream, and it's not quite as powerful up to turn 4 and into turn 11.
Yeah,
it's obviously turn 1's like your big golden opportunity, but you've got to make it stick. You've got to have the move done completely by the time you get into the braking zone, almost.
Or else you're DOA going for the next one, which is not a good thing. I'm gonna go and bail out because I'm meeting somebody to watch the NASCAR race, which is starting here in about a half an hour. So
No worries, Phil.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see y'all, Tom and Aaron, and hopefully we'll be able to connect at some point during the season. Maybe we can do some collabs, and of course, George will always talk because we do talk. So
We do, yeah.
great to all the fans and everybody in Grid Talk Nation. Thanks.
Grid Talk Nation. Yes.
And thanks as always. It's always fun. We'll see you at Saudi. We'll see you at Saudi next week.
Yeah, Saudi.
In the Saudi go-kart shithole.
Go-kart shit.
He had to get one more. He had to drop one more bomb. He had to go for one more insult before he went. Fair enough, Phil. Fantastic. Thank you for coming on, and catch you soon.
Yeah, Phil.
See you later, yo.
So Michael Gonzalez has put, Michael, you've commented all the time. Thank you very much for your comment as always. Nice to see a different winner. Love seeing results down the line different than the same old stuff past couple of years. I mean, yeah, we mentioned that. It's a big shake up at the end of the day. It's what these regulations were meant to do. We kind of thought going into it wouldn't change it that much overall with the order, but it has done.
You mean it has done?
Hey, has done. Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, some teams have had to go down. Aston Martin and McLaren are two of them, as much as it pains me to say about McLaren. I love McLaren, but it's painful seeing him like that. It really is. But, they'll come back, I'm sure.
Aston Martin, would you be motivated by the speeches that Lawrence Stroll gives?
Oh, I'm not disappointed about them. I'm not. It's McLaren for me. I'm a big McLaren fan. I love seeing them do well, but yeah, it's just bad. Got a long way to go. I do think they'll make up ground, of course, but it's a long way back there.
I think there's going to be some big swings this season. Like Mercedes, there's untapped potential in that car. If they can unlock it, I think that thing's a rocket ship. It might take them 6 or 7 races to get on top of it, but when they do, if they do, they could be like half a second clear. And then all of a sudden it's up to Ferrari and Red Bull to do something about it. And what have they got in the pipeline? Maybe it swings half a second their way as well.
Well, Red Bull are just going to be on reliability right now. They need to sort that out before they sort the speed of the car out.
Well, it's easier to make a fast car reliable, isn't it, than a slow car, a reliable car fast.
Very true. Very, very true. So we'll see how they go with that. Individual ones also put, McLaren looked awful. Only Williams worse. Zach Brown not long for this team. I don't know about that. I don't think Zach Brown's under threat. Not yet, at least. I mean, just give it to the end of the season, at least. Give him some time. There's him and the Seidel at the end of the day at the top of that team. So we'll see what happens with them. But
it's a long-term.
Let's just hope for it. Yeah,
because they've still got their wind tunnel and the new sim coming like next year or the year after. So Zach Brown's not, well, obviously there's no need to panic after one race, but he's not going to panic if this year doesn't quite turn out. I mean, they're still developing the infrastructure and there's a long-term plan afoot at McLaren. So don't worry too much about that. Don't need to get too carried away. Like, don't need to be calling for managers' heads like football fans do.
Exactly, yeah. It's not quite that simple. Oh god, this is an interesting one. I think this is going to get a good reaction. So Leon was put, not really hard to get 6 championship in that previous Mercedes car. Let's not forget he even lost to Rosberg as well in the same car. I see Russell getting better and better. Hamilton is 37. I agree with the last 2 sentences of that statement, but not the rest. Hamilton has been unbelievable for the last 7 years or so. Yes, he lost to Rosberg in one of them, but Rosberg was a great driver as well. We've covered a lot on this show about how Rosberg was not really appreciated during his time. I didn't appreciate him as much, but I do rate him. I do think he was a great driver and a worthy champion. But yeah, I mean, Russell is going to get better and better. Obviously, Hamilton is getting on, but he's still quicker than Russell at the moment. Give Russell time, of course. He's only just started in the car, but don't go saying things like Hamilton's not. He had 6 easy championships because he didn't. Because Ferrari had as quick of a car in 17, 18 for half the season, and he only just lost out to Verstappen last season. So Hamilton's still got it for sure. And if Mercedes get on top of that car, do not rule him out for an 8th championship this year.
Exactly. And look, Prost beat Senna and they had the same equipment, and Senna beat Prost and they had the same equipment. So
Exactly.
And Schumacher lost to Hakkinen in a straight fight. And then he also beat him. It went both ways. So that's just sport. That's the way it is.
That is sport. Yeah, you can't be on it absolutely every season. And Hamilton's a guy that's won a race in every single season he's been in, all 15 of them, which is a record, of course. And he's done it in 3 decades, which is a joint record. We can keep going about this. I mean, I couldn't believe that, what Phil said earlier on, 183 podiums. He's gonna, if he races next year, he's probably going to be on 200 podiums.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
it's
just unbelievable.
It was 15 years ago on Friday that he made his debut, his first race in Australia in 2007. I was 14. More than half my life that he's been racing in Formula One. It's ridiculous.
I was 11.
Makes me feel so old.
Yeah, that too. But, Louis, if you're listening, we keep saying it. It's coming for you, mate. Porsche, he won today in the F2. He's like 12, so he's definitely younger than you. I think he's like 17 or 18. He's really young. So
that just makes me feel even older.
I know, but it's coming for you, Louis. It's only a matter of time. You dodged a bullet with Piastri this week, and he could have got his debut, but it's going to happen next season, I'm telling you. Michael Becker, I think you've commented a few times in the past, so thank you for your comment this time as well. I was super impressed by Zhou this weekend, and honestly, Tsunoda as well. AlphaTauri looked quick. I don't know about Alpha. I don't think AlphaTauri looked that quick. They didn't look bad, but I think they have moved back a little bit. I think they are a bit slower than Alpine. Gasly did well to be in the points when he was running. Very unfortunate with his retirement, obviously, but Tsunoda, I think it wasn't for the retirements, he wouldn't have gotten the points. I don't think that AlphaTauri is quite as quick as last year.
No,
I don't think so. No,
it's not as good as last year's. It's not as competitive, but in Gasly's hands, he seems like he's one of those people that seems to just excel in the midfield. He's very good at dragging a midfield car to the top of the midfield, but potentially if you put him in a top running car, he'd fall back to the midfield. That's just kind of where his level is. But obviously we need to see if he gets another shot in a top team that's not Red Bull.
Yeah. Not really a question or anything, but John Mims has put awesome channel. Thank you very much, John. It's very nice of you to say. Let's have a look. Karsten Christensen has put, I think we might see cars will be more track specific this year. Which is an interesting thought. The one that kind of jumps out to me most is probably the Mercedes. I mean, it wasn't that hot in Bahrain this weekend. Saudi last year was very hot. I didn't think it would be, but it was very hot. If it's going to be hot there this year, I think we'd see those skinny, almost non-existent side pods get a little bit wider just for the cooling.
They're going to have to.
But they went the whole race without overheating.
Have they got those like gills on the side of it?
Ferrari have got them. I don't know about Mercedes. I can't remember.
Well, if the Ferrari's getting too hot, they'll just put some water in the side pods and make it a swimming pool, so it's fine.
Bloody hell.
It might be more of a jacuzzi than a swimming pool.
Yeah, I think it would get pretty bubbly in there, to be honest. It'd be pretty hot, so yeah.
I think it would turn into a steam bath pretty quick.
Put the borrowers in there.
Well, they put, I swear, in like hot races like Malaysia and stuff, they put like dry ice in there, don't they? So
yeah, they do.
Yeah, water would be a bit dumb. Not gonna lie, I don't think I did very well.
So it's sloshing around everywhere. It turned into Mario Kart. You just like to spill a bit of water over the side, and someone just spins off.
get that turtle guy in the Cooper in the cloud thing to like fish you out, just like. Right, back to reality. So John Mims has also put Nico had a big weekend this weekend. Might want to look into him replacing Lance on pace. I am absolutely 100% with you. I love Hulk. I think he's a good driver, and I think he deserves another chance in F1. Maybe not on the same level as some people think he is. He's not on the same levels as the likes of Vettel and all that. But yeah, in pure performance, he's a better driver than Lance Stroll. But of course, Stroll Senior owns the team, so it's never going to happen. We could see him in Saudi, though, next weekend again, if Vettel isn't recovered in time. But that might well be the last we see of him until, well, I mean, hopefully nobody else gets COVID, but it could happen again, of course.
I think the question we have to ask about Hulk is, if we'd stuck him in the Haas this weekend, would he have delivered the 5th place that Magnussen delivered? I know Magnussen worked with that team before, but he's literally had 3 days of 3 half days of testing, and then the build up to the race. So it's not really very much in the grand scheme of things. Would Hulk have been able to deliver a points finish in the same way that Magnussen did? Maybe not the 5th place, but some points. I think that's the sort of question we should ask, because we know that Hulk is probably better than Lance Stroll. I mean, I don't dislike Lance. I think he's a decent driver. I don't think he's world champion material, but there's a solid Grand Prix racer in. I think he's still he's not even 25 yet.
Yeah,
it feels like he's been around forever.
I know, he's been around since he was 6 or something.
He's been around since he was a fetus.
He was born in the paddock.
He was 18, wasn't he, when he made his debut in
2016?
He's 23. He's 1 year older than Hamilton when he made his debut. And this is his 7th season in F1.
Jesus.
Oh my God. Yeah, that puts into perspective, doesn't it? That is nuts. I didn't realize he was that young. So yeah, he's all right, Lance Stroll, particularly in the wet. He's got a very deft touch in the wet for sure. He does very well there, but it's just average for F1 standards. He's an incredible driver by almost every other standard, but because it's F1, he kind of gets shown up for being a bit average. So,
but the barriers to entry in F1 is so high, and Hamilton and Verstappen and Leclerc just keep pushing it up and up and up. So a regularly good Grand Prix racing driver gets made to look very average very quickly. But you put them in, if you put Lance Stroll in IndyCar or maybe Formula E, he'd find himself being one of the top guys.
Yeah.
Jean-Eric Vergne and Sebastian Buemi went to Formula E and they cleaned up. So they can't have been that bad to have not got a shot at a Red Bull seat.
Nelson Piquet Jr. Yeah. Nelson Piquet Jr. and Lucas Di Grassi, who in F1 look absolutely distinctly average.
Yeah,
I think they've both won championships or won races in Formula E. So that's just the kind of standard we're working with here.
Yeah.
Let's go for some more comments. Oh, Connor Walker is here. Connor, yes, I knew you'd be down here somewhere.
Good.
Late to the party, but he's here. He's here, and he's brought the goods with some comments. So, let's see. He's put, these new cars are awesome. That race was amazing, and the battle between Charles and Max was incredible. Absolutely agree with you there. And he's also put, I don't think McLaren is going to be competing for wins. I agree there, unfortunately, but I figure they'll be in the same region as Alpine eventually. Which, yeah, I think they'll probably get further up in the midfield as the season goes on, but they got the ground to claw back. I think they could end up 6th or 7th, a bit like Aston Martin last season. That kind of range by the end of the season, but we'll just have to see what happens. There's a long way to go. They've got very good drivers. They've got a very good team structure, like we keep saying. So there's opportunities there for them for sure. Let's move on. Let's see who else is down here. Lots of comments, guys. Honestly, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Manav Bargava, I have probably said that wrong, and I apologize for that. He's put, what is really wrong with the Honda engines? Well, Owain, who's a host on and a guest on here, he put in our chat that it was a fuel pump issue, wasn't it? So for the Red Bulls, Gasly, it
was MGUK.
Yeah, so a mix of different issues. Yeah, mix of different issues. Nothing the drivers can do. It's some sort of design issue with the car or the engine. It's got to be, because both for Red Bulls timed with the exact same thing around the exact same time. So that's something they're going to have to really work. They're going to be sweating in the last few stages of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix if they're not already conked out by then. It's going to be a nervy old affair for Red Bull with that, because it's only a week. That they're not going to make many strides with that in that time, even for them.
Well, they just carried on where they left off in Abu Dhabi, and they didn't fuel both cars this time.
Oh, the conspiracy theories are out. They ran Sergio Perez on fumes just to keep Hamilton behind. That's obviously what happened there. Let's just keep going. So many comments. Let's have a look. Emily Ears put Bottas needs to stop having terrible starts. Yeah, he's very Mark Webber-esque in that, isn't he? It's an awful start for him.
Bottas.
But
he got such a terrible launch.
He recovered it though, which is the main thing. He ended up probably where he would have been anyway if he had got a good start. Maybe he would have been fifth ahead of Magnussen if he had a better start.
It would have been fun seeing him battle Russell actually when Russell was coming through.
Yeah. So
that would have been quite tasty. But to be fair, like in the F2, there was so many drivers making rubbish starts in the Formula 2.
It might be that side of the grid.
Well, both the front row guys just didn't go anywhere. And then, was it Yuri Vips come through from third on the grid and just like, thanks. And Ralph Boschon was like, oh, hi, I want a piece of this too. And the front row guys were like, hey, wait, we're supposed to be up there. Wait for us.
Yeah, there's definitely a bad start. Like we said though, he recovered it, so that's the main thing. But on a track that's harder to pass, that could be something that's really not going to help him out. But
it's Bottas. He even on a track where it's easy to pass, he makes it difficult.
Traditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. We've got quite a few comments here at the end. Let's have a look. See if anything can pick out here. Ooh, individual one with another spicy comment here. Max had no chance of winning this one. Ferrari does have a pace advantage at this point. Max ran a clean, fair race against Charles. I mean, he was.
I wouldn't say Max had no chance, but
yeah, I think Ferrari. I think even if he got past him, I think Charles would have beaten him because. Every time that went through, Charles would get at least a 4-second gap over Verstappen. He was clearly quicker. Yes, he had clean air, obviously, but Verstappen was dropping back. So I think Charles was quicker than Verstappen, and I think also that Verstappen was quite a bit quicker than Carlos Sainz. I love Carlos Sainz. I think he's a brilliant driver, but he is not on Leclerc's level when it comes to leading out the front. He's a very, very consistent driver. Like we've said, he is the smooth operator. But he is not the fastest driver. That's not to say he's slow by any means, but Leclerc is incredibly quick. You know, there's Leclerc, Hamilton, and Verstappen, and them three are kind of by themselves for me. That's the kind of podium that, in terms of raw pace, that we're dealing with here with these drivers.
Yeah, I think that Leclerc has that X factor pace that, like, when he gets in the groove, if the pace is there, he's going to be the guy who extracts that just a little bit extra, that 10th or 2 more. Like, they were always lapping sort of similar lap times, but Carlos was regularly 10th, 2 tenths, maybe half a second sometimes off of Charles's pace. Charles is needing to lay down a marker as well because he got beat by Sainz last year. So he would have had some fire in his belly today.
Yep. And I just think Max is going to come back swinging after this.
Yeah, he's going to be fired up for sure. But
now we're going to Saudi.
The wars are very close. Apparently, they made some changes to the track as well to make it even faster.
They've widened the.
That's the last thing that bloody place needed.
Oh, it's more speed, my friend. Don't you worry about that. It's the even quicker street circuit now.
It's just it's the old Hockenheim, just really stretched out and really thin. There's 2 tight hairpins at the end. Is it what's that circuit in Germany where it's really
the Austria one? Was it Zeltweg or something?
It's just 2 straight lines.
Yeah, it's just 2 straight. Yeah,
yeah. That's what Saudi's going to be now.
Oh God, see, that's gonna be interesting for sure. With the ground effect cars as well, which are incredibly fast through high speed corners, which that track is almost all high speed corners.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see them around Silverstone. They're going to be unbelievably quick round somewhere like that.
Through Maggots and Beckett's.
They're going to be flat through like the first 2 or 3 parts of that easily.
And then they're going to get to Club and Vale and like fall over.
Yeah. Oh, love field in these cars. That's going to be awful. It's going to take like 10 seconds to get around love field. That's going to be bad.
Just tortoising around the outside.
Milan are just flying off in the safety car, and they're just going, "Oh, I can't get no."
It's like when your controller disconnects and your car just like keeps going.
Yeah, it's literally that, isn't it? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'll end it by saying thank you for your comments, Zach Myers. Very happy Ferrari fan. Right then, just put Vamos, Scuderia. And John Mims has put as well, does this need to beat Alonso's last year? I don't know about needs, but if he's genuinely slower through this season than Ocon, he's going to call it quits.
Yeah, Alonso's
no way two ways about it.
2018.
Yeah, in hindsight, he might need to be.
Because what's he achieving? Like, his comeback is now going to money elsewhere.
That's definitely played a part. Come on.
But look, he's not going to achieve anything. He wants to be world champion. He's not going to win the world championship this year. And if he wants to win the world championship, he needs to stay next year. But I can't see how Alpine, who always change their management structure, no matter what day of the week it is, are going to be able to produce a car that is ready to win a title from the first race of the season. It's just not going to happen. No. Alonso's going to be, it's going to be like that Titanic meme. It's been 85 years and he's still in whatever they're calling it by that point. It might even be a Tolman by the time it reaches then. But who knows?
It's gone full circle.
Yeah.
It's gone all the way back. Oh, God, yeah. Alonso's still going for the third championship. It's been 84 years. Oh, right. Okay. Well, I think we'll end the show there. Thank you, lads, for joining us. Thank you to everybody on the live stream that's put your comments in. It's been a fantastic response. Like we say, we'll be back around this sort of time tomorrow to preview Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And yeah, I hope you guys have all enjoyed the race, as I can tell from your comments. We've got a lot to talk about as always, and we'll get into it next time as well. So yeah. That's me too, Tom. That's me. That's me as well, mate. I'll be honest with you, I'm absolutely knackered.
Oh, mate, yeah, I know. I got Tweedledum and Tweedle Twat killed up on my feet at the minute as well. So I'm gonna go downstairs and feed them.
If anybody's wondering who those two are, those are Tom's those are Tom's new cats. So. At least I hope they are. I don't know what you're talking about.
I should clarify. Yes, I'm indeed talking about my cats. Yes, absolutely. Come here. Yeah, she's looking at me now, but yeah, they're hungry.
Right, I won't keep them away from food. I'm hungry as well. I'm gonna have some tea and then probably go to bed. So yeah, thank you, lads. Thank you for joining us, and I'll catch you soon. Probably. Take care.
See you soon, guys. Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
See you later.